Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving headfirst into a rapid, highly structured journey through literally millions of years of our own history. We're going to take the entire sprawling and honestly kind of chaotic story of human evolution, and we're distilling it right down to its absolute most critical, world-changing turning points. We're mapping out the quiet biological mutations, those fierce environmental conquests, and the explosive technological breakthroughs that took us from wandering ancient savannas all the way to engineering the modern world.
So have you ever actually stopped to wonder how we became the dominant species on Earth? I mean, really think about that for a second. We don't have sharp claws, we don't have thick armor, we definitely can't outrun a cheetah or wrestle a bear, and yet we completely reshaped the globe. How does that happen? Well, buckle up because we're traveling back millions of years to map out exactly how our ancestors pulled off this unparalleled feat of survival and dominance. Section 1, the first steps.
All right, to really grasp this, we got to go all the way back to the very beginning, the biological leaps that kick-started this whole thing. And when you look at this timeline, what's absolutely wild are these massive, agonizingly slow gaps in time. We're talking 7 million years ago, then a massive leap to 2 million years ago, and then another huge jump to just 300,000 years ago. For the vast majority of our history, progress wasn't measured in decades or centuries. It was measured in millions of years of just slow, quiet genetic mutations. Generations lived and died with almost zero noticeable change in their daily routines. That vast, slow-moving timeline is the canvas we're working on today.
Okay, so right around that 7 million year mark, our ancestors split from the ancestors of modern chimps. But the real catalyst, the thing that set off an absolute chain reaction, happened when they started walking on two legs. Why? Well, as the dense African forests thinned out into open savannas, bipedalism was a huge advantage. You could peer over tall grass to spot predators, and it was actually way more energy efficient for traveling long distances in the hot sun. But the biggest deal here wasn't just mobility. Walking upright permanently freed their hands. They weren't using their knuckles to walk anymore. Suddenly, those hands were totally free to carry food, hold incense, and eventually grasp and manipulate objects. That single shift, freeing the hands, is literally the foundation for everything else.
Section 2, Tools and Fire.
Fast forward to the 2 million year mark, and we meet early humans, specifically Homo erectus. And with those free hands, they get proactive. They start actively manipulating their environment instead of just reacting to it. They're not just picking up convenient rocks, they're actively shaping them. By striking stones together, flaking them, they created sharp edges, hand axes, scrapers. This was a total game changer. Suddenly, they could butcher meat, crack open bones for that nutrient-rich marrow, and hunt effectively. They were transforming from mere scavengers into formidable predators.
But then we controlled fire. And honestly, it is impossible to overstate just how monumental this was. It's arguably one of the greatest discoveries in all of history. Fire meant warmth in the freezing cold, it meant light in the terrifying dark, keeping predators away, but the biggest upgrade, it fundamentally changed our biology through cooking. Cooking acts like pre-digestion. It breaks down tough plant fibers and meat proteins, making it so much easier to digest. And because our bodies no longer had to burn massive amounts of energy running a huge digestive tract to process raw food, that saved energy was redirected. It went straight into fueling the growth of our increasingly large, energy-hungry brains.
Section 3, The Rise of Sapiens. Jumping over another massive gap of time to roughly 300,000 years ago, Homo sapiens arrive on the scene in Africa. Yep, that's us. So what made us so different? Well, we had those larger brains fueled by cooked food, for one. We also developed complex language, a massive communication upgrade. But the absolute trump card was our ability to share knowledge across generations. Think about it. Because of complex language, if a brilliant hunter figures out a slightly better way to chip a spear point or notices a plant cures an illness, that idea doesn't just die with them. It gets taught to their kids, then their grandkids. The knowledge compounds. A tribe isn't just relying on instinct anymore. It's relying on this ever-growing library of shared survival strategies. That right there, that was our ultimate tool for dominance.
Section 4, Building Civilization.
Now, hit the fast-forward button, because thanks to that compounding knowledge, humanity's expansion just explodes in both speed and complexity. That agonizingly slow progress of millions of years suddenly turns into a full-on sprint. We took our shared knowledge and spread completely across the globe, adapting to some intensely extreme environments. We didn't have biological fur to survive the icy regions, so we used bone needles to sew warm clothes from animal hides.
We didn't have humps to store water in the scorching deserts, so we learned to bury water in ostrich eggshells. From towering mountains to dense forests, we adapted not by waiting millions of years for new physical traits, but by using our brains, our tools, and our culture.
In conquering all those environments allowed us to transition from just scraping by day to day to actual societal growth. We developed agriculture. We stopped constantly chasing our food and started deliberately growing it. Talk about a monumental shift. Agriculture meant a surplus of calories, meaning, for the first time ever, not everyone had to spend their entire day looking for food. That freed up a massive amount of time and energy. It let us build permanent communities. It gave us the breathing room to create complex art, establish social structures, and lay down the deep roots of culture. Just look at this comparison here. In what is basically a blink of an eye in evolutionary terms, just a few thousand years, those stabilized communities scaled up at an unbelievable rate. Ancient, localized kingdoms rapidly morphed into sprawling modern nations. Once you have a stable food supply, ambition grows. We developed massive bureaucracies, complex legal systems, and vast trade networks spanning entire continents. We went from small, tight-knit tribes to massive nation-states organized around shared laws and collective identities. This scaling up created a runaway train of progress driven by positive feedback loops. Boom, writing is invented. Now knowledge isn't limited to human memory. We can record complex ideas permanently. Writing accelerates science, giving us a framework to understand the natural world. Science then accelerates medicine, giving us the power to eradicate diseases and literally double our natural lifespans. This relentless technological explosion connected the globe and fundamentally altered the face of the planet.
Section 5. The Unfinished Journey.
Today, we are definitely not ancient storytellers huddled around a campfire anymore. We are a modern, highly interconnected global species looking at completely new frontiers. We're exploring the vacuum of space. We are engineering artificial intelligence. We're actively shaping the future of our planet's ecosystems. It is profoundly humbling, honestly, to connect these massive modern achievements right back to those very first ancestors 7 million years ago. They simply stood up on 2 legs and freed their hands to hold a flaked stone. And now, those exact same human hands are typing lines of complex code and piloting rockets into orbit.
Which brings us to an incredibly important realization. Just read the text here. Human evolution isn't over. It is still happening every single day. The chronological momentum we just traveled through, from shaping stones to launching spaceships, is a very active, ongoing process. We are still adapting to our environment. We are still learning at a rate that is totally unprecedented, and we're still changing the very nature of what it means to be human.
From survival to civilization, humanity's journey continues. We conquered basic survival. We built sprawling global civilizations. But the timeline doesn't stop here, folks. If standing up on 2 legs took us all the way to the stars, what is our next evolutionary leap going to look like? Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning and keep exploring.